Welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. I'm Trish.
And I'm Julie. We are two nurses exploring holistic healing and wellness practices to empower you to be the leader of your own health.
Join us as we have fun making the weird shit a normal part of your everyday life. Hello, and welcome to the Wellness Empowerment Project. Today, we are meeting with Crystal. Crystal is a licensed pharmacist and an AFMC certified functional medicine practitioner with a passion for all things perimenopause and gut health. After overcoming her own struggles with hormonal imbalances, gut issues, anxiety, acne, and chronic fatigue using natural remedies, she knew she had to share what she learned. After getting certified in functional medicine, she decided to shift her career and help others achieve the same kind of transformation. Through her Revive and Thrive program, she digs deep to uncover the root causes of symptoms, starting with gut health to help women feel energized, focused, and confident in their own skin. Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
So happy to have you here, Crystal. So wow, PharmD to functional medicine.
Yeah.
We start there.
Yeah, I love being a pharmacist. Obviously, I went to school for a long time to become a pharmacist. You go into that field with the hopes that you are going to be able to give your all to your clients. Like you want these patients to be as supported as possible, to be able to answer all of their questions. And unfortunately, especially in retail pharmacy, that is just not the case. You are just, pounding out prescriptions. You're on the phone all day with doctors, insurance companies. And I just got to this point where I was like, I'm not helping these people the way I really truly want to help them. I've always had this passion for fitness and health actually since 2012. I was started as a fitness and nutrition coach and then integrated, wanted to become a pharmacist to become that that practitioner in the field where everyone can come to you with questions. Doing that, obviously, day in, day out, 12 hours a day. I was still working out in the morning, waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, working out, working for 12 hours, coming home, trying to go to sleep, and then starting it all over again. I was starting to get pretty burnt out on top of the stress of the job. And then I started getting my own symptoms. I was getting panic attacks out of nowhere, pretty intense depression. My skin was breaking out. I was getting these 3-day migraines every month that doctors were just telling me, you're on birth control, it can't be hormones. So here's some ibuprofen. They gave me some meds for anxiety. They gave me some meds for depression and muscle relaxer to help my tension. And that was the answer. They are like, here are some meds to help. I started learning about more and more things, and I was just getting tired of DIYing my own health. I was really getting nowhere from trying to learn everything I could from the internet. I came across functional medicine. I hired a practitioner virtually. We worked together. We got some testing done. And within about 6 weeks, things were just melting away. Everything was starting to feel so much better. And I was like, this is amazing. I'm going back to school for this because I need to be able to learn as much as I can on how to do this for other people. And this was my way to really get that one-on-one with patients that I really wanted. I knew going in, I wanted to start my own business just so that I can help as many women as possible.
So, Crystal, there are two big things that I took from what you were saying. One, you're talking about your functional medicine practitioner. And I wanted to dive into that first. Because I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who is a functional medicine nutritionist. And over the last years we've been friends for, I think, 4 or 5 years. And I've sent things to her that I've looked at as well. And one thing that's coming across and that she's noticing is there's a lot of people out there calling themselves functional health practitioners. And they just took a weekend course.
Yes.
Or they just took a 6-week course. And specifically, she noted yesterday how there's a physician in her area who's now doing cash payments and calling himself a functional medicine physician. She called the office and spoke with him. And yeah, he just took a weekend course. He's sending people to get their IV vitamins, and that's about it. So I really would love for you to share with us, when people are looking for a functional medicine practitioner, what should we be looking for so we know that these people were properly trained? And tell us a little bit more about the training that you specifically went into.
Yeah. So my specific school that I went to was pretty much go at your own pace because it is online, but overall about 2 years. And then the third year is you doing a case. So you had to present a case. And from start to finish, they give you the patient and you do the whole workup for them. And then you have to pass that in order to get certified. I haven't looked into what these quick ones are giving people. My school broke it down into going into sections of gut health, learning about supplements, learning about mood disorders, learning about hormones. Everything was really broken down. The second year dove in a bit deeper. As you go along, you're getting quizzed on all of this. You're doing you're going over cases of patients that my professors have had, so that we're learning from actual live cases. So it was pretty in depth in that sense. You're getting a lot of that hands-on experience, plus you're getting the didactic learning all about from studies. My professor, I was really thankful for the school that I chose because she had this big science background. She liked to incorporate the science into all of what we were learning, but wasn't just things that were hearsay. She would include her hands-on experience along with, hey, here are some studies that kind of back some of this up. Because it is a little challenging when you're working with supplements, things. We don't have studies for everything. Some of these studies take decades. To wait for a study to come out to see if this one supplement's going to help you might take forever and you're just going to suffer in that time. I really enjoyed that she combined all of that together. The nutrition aspect, some of them aren't able to order testing and things like that. You really are focusing a lot on using food as medicine and also tackling some of the lifestyle as well. I know a lot of the functional nutritionists that I'm friends with, they also incorporate lifestyle, stress, sleep, how all of that really ties in because it's all connected. When it comes to looking for somebody, I think looking for that certification is hopefully going to be a little more pronounced and see that people did put in the work to get certified for it. But it might come down to really seeing, okay, what schools were good, see if somebody went to that. There are some schools too that have like forums where you can search practitioners now too. You can look on like the AFMC website and find a practitioner there. And that will be like in your area if you want somebody a little closer or just to search there. I think, and I'm hoping going forward, we can weed out some of the people that way, but it is challenging.
Yeah. And I just think you bring up an important point too, that you went to the AFMC, you went through their program, and it was a 2-year program. That's like a master's degree.
Yeah,
It is almost a separate degree in itself, right?
it
And it's
is.
not something that can be tackled quickly in
Mm,
a nice additional 6-week training, no
yeah.
matter what previous experience that you have. The
Exactly.
other piece I really got too is that you were being given medication after medication, right? What we're doing is we are basically putting a blanket over each symptom that you were having. I'm very curious, especially when you started working with your functional medicine practitioner. What did you go, or how did you go about trying to find the root cause when everything has been covered over with medication?
Yeah, and as a pharmacist, I knew the side effects of these things, and I knew, but I was just you get to that point where you just feel helpless a little bit, and some of them I took myself off of. So, like, after about I gave the antidepressant, but it's 6 to 8 weeks to kick in, I still wasn't feeling great. I didn't even take some of the anxiety ones because I didn't wanna feel off at work. I know I need to be on it when I'm a pharmacist. I don't wanna make mistakes. I really didn't wanna take that either. The muscle relaxer couldn't even take until the evenings. I just, like I couldn't feel myself going on all of these. I knew there was gotta be another way. I had wound up ordering my own home thyroid kit because my OBGYN would not run the thyroid labs that I wanted. I wound up ordering my own hormone testing kit. I tested my own hormones. I brought it to a local naturopath and he's, "Oh, this is the first time I'm seeing this test." And I was like, "Oh, no." So he tried his best and then put me on testosterone. And I'm like, no, it made me feel terrible. You definitely need somebody that's properly trained to read these tests as well. So I was really DIYing it. And then when I brought it to her, then she also introduced me to the stool test that I implement in my program. That's when I really opened my eyes into the importance of gut health. She showed me all of these things going on in my gut. And I was like, how did all of this happen? And you start to learn how everything's just all connected to the gut. So we can't just go in and start fixing hormones when the gut is so imbalanced. She started there, and I had some overgrowths and all this dysbiosis I needed to take care of first. And then you slowly see things fall into place. The hormones are starting to come back after I got off birth control. I took myself off birth control also. So things were wacky for a while, but we really honed in on stress. She looked at my cortisol levels and was like, "You are going to die if you don't relax." And I was like, how am I supposed to relax? Like, I'm a pharmacist. What do I do? That really hit home. And I was like, okay, I need to figure out how to get my stress under control because that was wrecking my gut and wrecking everything else. So stress, lifestyle, I had to cut back on working out like crazy every day, take up more yoga and walking, allow my body that chance to feel safe and to start healing. It was pretty powerful kind of seeing these tests, these functional tests and what they can show because I really a visual person. So I really like to see the numbers and what's going on. Seeing that really brought to light the importance of gut health and really taking care of your body and listening to it.
Tell us a little bit more about the stool test.
Yeah.
What were the tests that were run on your stool? And then what was the first step to start correcting your gut?
Yeah, there are a couple of different testing modalities out there. The one I specifically use is called GI map, and that's the one that was ran on me the very first time. This is one that encompasses so much. I've had a doctor run a stool test on me that was very specific in just testing for H. pylori and maybe a couple of other bugs, and that was it. This one will also look at if there's any E. coli or other pathogenic ones. It'll show the H. pylori. It'll show if there's parasites or worms going on. It'll show if there's yeast overgrowth. It'll also dive deep into if there's some inflammation going on. Is there blood in the stool? Is there fat in the stool? Is the pancreas okay? Is there inflammation? Is there a reaction to gluten, which I had? It can really show us all of these things that are going on. And we want to know also, which is a huge part of it, is what are your levels of the good bacteria that are supposed to be fighting for you? Looking at that, I had low levels of good bacteria. I had overgrowth of other ones. I had some H. pylori. I had a parasite. I had candida. I had everything going against me. Just seeing it was like, wow, okay, it all makes sense as to why I was feeling the way I was. You have to peel back layers of an onion when you're healing. Everyone wants that quick fix. Unfortunately, that's not the way it goes. So you really just have to starting definitely with lifestyle, starting with changing the diet. And people think they have to go on these extreme elimination diets forever, and that's not the case. So you do need to give your body this time to heal. My elimination diet, I think, was like 6 weeks. I was pretty 100% into this. I put all the work into it. Really, as much as you put in, you'll get out. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to cheat on the diet here and there, your body's going to feel that. I went in hard. I just needed about 6 weeks of the diet, and my body was just finally healing. It felt great. But there are some supplements that need to be taken. I was on several for my gut test results. But every person is going to be different. So there aren't real super strict protocols. I definitely don't follow any protocol. I don't think any of my patients have done the same protocol. So you have ideas of some that you want to use for certain things, but each person is going to be very unique in how they present. And you usually want to start by knocking out the highest things first. And then you focus on like rebalancing the gut, repopulating the gut, healing things up so that hopefully this doesn't happen anytime soon.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the elimination diet and what was that process for you and what's that like?
Yeah, for me, we had a couple of things in mind. Definitely, we saw that reaction to gluten. So that had to come out 100%. Also, dairy usually goes hand in hand with that. I knew that my body wasn't super happy with dairy anyway, so I didn't eat a lot of it, but I had to knock it out 100% because even just getting a little bit in your diet is still going to cause that inflammation, especially gluten. If your body is reacting to that, it needs to be out for a while because that inflammation can kick up and it can hang around for a while until it goes back down. People think, oh, I'll just have this little piece, it'll be fine, I'll poop it out. And that's just not how it works. The inflammation stays. Definitely gluten and dairy. I think I kept grains in there, but we had some questions about possible histamine. When you really have those like allergy issues, you have mucus, you have runny nose, you have some rashes, you have things like that. We start looking to see is your body maybe having issues with a histamine load. With that, you can knock out some parts of the diet also. Unfortunately, things like bananas and avocado vinegars, like all of those can be pretty high in histamine for some people, depending on their gut. So if your gut's not processing it out, little things like that can really throw it off. Sometimes if people are in the sun for too long and they get some skin reactions, that can be histamine kicking in. So that's you can get like little signs that it might be. We cut that out for a little while. Things weren't really changing. She didn't really think that was my issue, but that can become part of it too. I work with my clients to see what level of healing they're ready to do. It can be overwhelming for people to have to cut a lot of this out of their diet. We see what's really causing some issues and start with there. Like, can you remove gluten or is dairy easier to remove for now? And we'll start there. But not everybody has to go on these extreme elimination diets either. A lot of people get scared of that, but not everybody has to go on one.
After you went through the elimination period, did you transition back by trying some of those foods that you took out back in? And what was that like? Did you do one at a time?
Yes. Yeah. It's really important to, when you're reintroducing, to go slow, especially if you did have some reactions to a bunch of different things. If you're incorporating it all at once, you're not really going to know what your big culprits are. Well, you can slowly bring back some dairy. I really haven't brought the dairy back super hard. I'm still pretty dairy free. I will have some every now and then and regret it. But the gluten, like, I slowly brought that back in, and then I had no problems with the avocados and bananas and things like that. But yes, for a lot of my patients, we start super slow. Some have to remove eggs, and then we'll start bringing those back in first and slowly see how the body reacts. At least give it a few days before bringing anything else back in, and you can get a good idea.
Did you also find that after you went through the entire process and now you feel that you've healed your gut, that you are able to tolerate foods now that you weren't able to tolerate before?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And it can go through cycles. I usually do a gut test once a year and I'll notice, okay, if my skin starts breaking out again, something's wrong. It's not that you heal it and you're set for life, unfortunately, because life happens. Maybe you have to go on an antibiotic and maybe life's going to get stressful. Maybe that happens and throws things off, or maybe you get food poisoning and that throws things off. You go travel, you go out of the country, pick up a parasite or something like that. It can be cyclical, but you can absolutely tolerate foods a lot better afterwards and then learn, what works for your body and what doesn't. And it just becomes more of this is my lifestyle now. I definitely operate on the sense that I want people to be able to enjoy food. I don't want anybody to be scared of food. That's just not a healthy way to look at it, especially if I see people that already might have some predisposed issues around food. I'll be very careful with the elimination diet and we can work around things. But people do need to know that you can incorporate that food back in and wind up being just fine after.
So you mentioned earlier that we shouldn't be changing our hormones and adding all these hormones to our system if we haven't first addressed the gut.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the gut hormone interaction and then the steps that you took after you healed your gut to go in and explore what we need to do with our hormone?
Yeah, especially coming off of birth control, you definitely want to wait at least like 3 to 4 months before testing hormones, at least, because things are going to get a little wonky. And if you go in to test, then it might get a little messed up. So you want to make sure that you're working with a little more of what your baseline kind of is. What people need to understand is that our gut bugs are really important for metabolizing our estrogen in a way that it makes it a little bit easier to get out of the body. We have this cool little group of bacteria called the estrobolome, and they really have this vital role in breaking down estrogen, getting it eliminated out of the body. We also have bacteria that produce this cool enzyme called beta glucuronidase, and that supports the regulation of estrogen levels. If those gut bugs that can produce that are overgrown and we have too much of that, you can actually have estrogen being turned back into an active form and being reabsorbed. And having this higher absorption of estrogen in the bloodstream can lead to conditions like PCOS. We can get obesity, we can get PMS symptoms like bloating, breast tenderness, mood changes. All of this can affect our estrogen levels. And other hormones are affected as well. It's important to see what's going on there first, because that's you can, with like throwing fuel on a fire, if you're just like, oh, okay, maybe you need more estrogen or more progesterone. But if we're not working downstream also on who's got to process all of this, it's not going to end up really well. And you could wind up feeling worse because if you're levels are already acting like they're high and you're throwing more estrogen at that, you can definitely feel worse. That's why some people might have that negative reaction to hormone replacement therapy, which I am a huge proponent for. And I think it's amazing. But we also need to look at the rest of the body. How's the liver? Like I work on liver function with my patients because we need to make sure that liver is operating because that's going to be processing our hormones as well. That's where we started with the gut health. We knew I needed some progesterone. We did like low dose topical while I was working on the gut, but it's definitely important to at least tackle some of that first. And I also look at blood labs to see how the liver is operating, how everything else is looking also, because we want to make sure that's all in check too. Glucose and blood sugars could be all out of whack. And people could be thinking that it's their hormones when really it's their blood sugars going crazy. So I take it all into the story and see what's really going on.
Do you find that there are specific symptoms that people present with that may show that they are estrogen dominant or that they would need some progesterone, just so that people have some ideas of, oh, this is a hormone issue that I need to start working with somebody on versus something else?
Yeah, and that's the wild thing too is that you can have things like the inflammation and the gut and the acne and the rashes and the joint pain, and people might not realize that's all gut related. And what happens is that with that leaky gut, that can happen from like when I was on birth control, you can get all of this stuff in the body and getting attacked. Like the body can attack it. So you can get these feelings of like, "Oh, do I have joint pain now all of a sudden?" A lot of these like wild symptoms, like I'm not sleeping well. Is it just because I had caffeine too late? The main ones for me were definitely not sleeping well. I had the hot flashes. I had the night sweats. I felt awful at night. That was the biggest thing. And I really treasured my sleep, especially as a pharmacist, and I had like none of it. So it's like I cannot be up all night. Like I have to be back at work early. That was a big one for me. I did have some bloating. My PMS was awful. I just didn't even want to be around myself the week before my period. Cramps, like intense cramps. Unfortunately, women think that cramps are normal and they're common, but they're not normal. We talk about things that are common as normal, and unfortunately, that's not the case. We need to intense, like heavy periods, that all needs to be looked at. If there's a spotting before the period, especially if it's like a darker brown, that's definitely a sign of low progesterone. And just women in general can start having their progesterone decline as early as 35 years old. That's when I really started experiencing these migraines. For me, like migraines was another part of it. If you're having these chronic headaches, I always have my clients write down when this is happening. Because if you're not tracking your cycle, it's time to start tracking it because we need to know when it's getting wonky, because then that's definitely you're in perimenopause. And if you're getting headaches around certain times of the month, so around ovulation, we've got estrogen peaking. If you're having these issues with estrogen getting removed from the body properly, then you're like really peaking high. And then we've got progesterone increasing in our luteal phase, and we get another little blip of a higher estrogen like the week before our period. That's what was happening to me with these 3-day migraines. And then all of that comes down and we have our periods. When all of these hormones are really low is when, it induces our period. And that's really when you can get headaches again, because then things are going from really high to really low. And you can really feel that. All of these kind of work hand in hand with putting together the pieces of the story, and it helps to track things and see what's going on with the cycle.
Crystal, I think you made a really good point, and this is something that Julie and I have been talking about a lot on the side of how our culture have really normalized a lot of things that are common, but just because it's normalized and common does not mean it's healthy, and it doesn't mean it's something that we should accept. And I
Yeah.
think you did a great job of talking about some of those symptoms that childbearing women could be having during their cycle that we think are common and normal, but really need to be looked at with a finer lens. My question to you is, when we're starting to hit perimenopause and even really close into dipping our toe into menopause, and we're not sure where our cycle is in the moment. What things should we be looking for at that point in time?
It's really important to keep track of symptoms as well. When we're in perimenopause, our estrogen is just all over the place. You can utilize testing in some cases if you just want to see what's going on, how the body's metabolizing things. The test that I use can also test cortisol, which is really helpful because our adrenals and our stress are so important when it comes to having our ovaries be able to produce progesterone. We can look at all of that, but also it's important to know that symptoms are very telltale and your body better than anybody else. Unfortunately, some doctors are just relying on blood tests of hormones, which aren't the most accurate thing, especially what day of the month was it? Where in the cycle were you? Some people will bring me all these blood labs that they had hormones tested. And I'm just like, it's just a moment in time. It's like, how are your symptoms? If you're not sleeping well, most likely you need progesterone. Pretty much any woman in their 40s, you're going to need progesterone. We just need to get that on board again. It has been life changing for me to add progesterone, and now I'm starting to increase it. It just makes that huge difference in how you feel, how you're sleeping, in the amount of migraines. Those are pretty much gone. It makes a big difference in balancing things out because that's the first one that's going to be really declining that you'll feel. Estrogen is going to be up and down when you're getting a little bit more towards the end. Starting estrogen is a great option. That's actually next on my list to add on to my supplements. Just getting it started. And there's so much information getting out there now, which is really exciting because for so long, women were scared to be on estrogen because of a study that was done 20 years ago saying, no, it's going to cause cancer. Don't do it. When we're saying, no, it's actually really protective for the heart. It's really protective for the bones. Like women need this. It's actually protective against cancers. And then balancing that out with the progesterone, we can get the body to a point where it's just going to thrive and be able to withstand aging so much better. The risk of heart attack in menopause is 1 in 3. We want to get rid of that. We want to give women the estrogen that they need because of how protective it is. I am very proactive in trying to teach as many people the benefits of hormone replacement therapy and how it needs to be started sooner than later because some women will wait years, decades of feeling awful because their doctors are just saying, no, you don't need it. It causes cancer, things like that. It's going to be really important to be proactive and find the doctors that are willing to go to bat for you.
Can you talk to us a little bit about the impact that birth control pills have on gut health? Many of us have been on birth control pills for some period of time in their life. I have a lot of friends who have teen daughters with a lot of
Mhm.
symptoms, and they're being put on birth control, not for birth control, but for
Yes.
symptom management. And from what I've read, these medications do impact your gut microbiome. I'm not anti birth control pills,
Mhm.
but what are some of the impacts on the gut? What are ways that women can help mitigate those things if they choose to do that? But I also feel like women don't understand or they don't realize the impact that it's going to have on their body by taking these meds.
Yes, absolutely. And I was somebody that was put on it actually for acne when I was younger. And I just stayed on it because I'm absolutely somebody that I'm thankful we had it. I think we have it. I think it does have a time and a place, but it became convenient. It was like, okay, now I'm going to school. Now I'm getting older. I won't get pregnant. They just stay on it. And even as a pharmacist, we're not even told all of these long-term side effects, which was really embarrassing to me because I'm just dishing it out to all these young girls that are being put on it because they have heavy periods. The issue with the birth control pill is it is putting a toll on the gut. So the gut's working really hard to process everything. For my case, I did wind up getting leaky gut, which is super common when you're on that for a long period of time. We're putting a lot of pressure on the gut. We start getting these imbalances, we start getting this inflammation, and the tight junctions that are there for our cells start to open up and things can get in, like I was saying earlier. On top of that, birth control can cause a lot of nutrient depletions, which causes so many issues. most of our B vitamins, B6, B12, B2, B9 are being depleted from there. We've got that. We've got magnesium being depleted. That's where the headaches come in. That's where some muscle aches come in. That's where some crappy sleep comes in. We have selenium being depleted. Selenium is so important for thyroid health. We've got vitamin C and E being depleted. So important for the immune system. Zinc, so important for the immune system and for thyroid health. And then there's CoQ10, which is one of our great antioxidants. That's also being depleted. We have all of this, and over years, that just adds up. That's where some of these symptoms were coming from, where doctors are saying, oh, no, you're fine. You're on birth control. There's no way that's doing anything. Like that's just regulating your hormones. And it doesn't regulate, it shuts everything off entirely. The whole point of birth control is to shut everything off. You are not ovulating. You're not having a true period. You're having what's called a pill induced bleed. Unfortunately, we aren't taught that. We see that there's estrogen in it. We think we're taking estrogen. We see that there's something like a progesterone in there. We think we're taking progesterone, but these are synthetic versions of it. So they don't have all those robust benefits that true bioidentical forms will have in the body. So the body is still acting like this is something that's synthetic and it's taking up resources and it's taking up spots in the body for real estradiol to be on a receptor. Some of these synthetic hormones can actually hang on to these receptors for 6 months or so after. That's why you have to wait time after coming off of it to even see where your hormones are really at, because some of these synthetic ones can hang around. And these are causing those issues like bloating and mood issues and immune issues. Unfortunately, we're not really taught that part of it. And I've even seen some women in menopause being put on these for hormone replacement therapy. And that's just way off. That's not going to help anything, unfortunately.
Can you talk to us about the difference between being on the pill and then on hormone replacement therapy? When you're put on HRT, do you have the same depletions of all of those different vitamins and minerals that you should be considering? Or is it more preferred to take some of those hormones topically or in different ways so it has less impact on your gut?
Yeah. So the taking the bioidentical, which means you're either taking estradiol or you're taking progesterone. Those are replacing what's natural in your body. You're not going to have those issues with all of those nutrient depletions. Not to say there won't have side effects on women. But you're taking hormones. It's going to also have an effect on the body. It could take your body some time to adjust as well. It's always important to give anything that's new like that at least a few months for your body to really adjust. But there are several forms now. Topical is always a great one if people aren't ready to take an oral form. Oral progesterone has actually been studied to show to be super beneficial if there are sleep issues. That is a benefit of it. You can get stronger doses in oral form as well. It's a little challenging to match the topical progesterone to oral with the strength. I do prefer compounded for that so that you can go to a compounding pharmacy and get the form that that's better suited for you. I also prefer compounding in the sense that I'm using a progesterone capsule and the prescription progesterone that's out right now, Prometrium. They do use peanut oil and yellow dye in there. So it's really unfortunate to be getting kind of those crappy ingredients in there when you're trying to do something good for yourself. I do prefer compounding pharmacy in that sense. So the one that I get is just progesterone without any dyes or added crap in there. There are more companies, thankfully, getting into this. There are topical options as well. Estrogen is a great one to do topically. For some women, the patch isn't enough. We do have the patch for prescription, and they prefer the cream for that. When I started, I'll probably be starting the cream. I think it's just a little bit easier for me, but I'm super thankful. There's so many options out there. There's even like vaginal suppositories. Just going the compounding route can really give you a lot more options.
Can you talk to us about some of your clients and what do they typically present with? Are they at the end of their rope after seeing a lot of traditional practitioners? And what is that process when they start
Yeah,
working with you?
I've seen some that have been through dozens of specialists and they are absolutely just, I don't know what to do. You're my last resort. A lot of it is being told that everything is normal, that their labs are fine. And then I'll look at their labs and see that no, they're not fine. I just had a client actually with high liver enzymes, and they did an ultrasound and said everything looked fine. We'll come back in 1 to 3 months and we'll check up in case anything happens, come in sooner, but we'll see you later kind of thing. And then when I looked at her labs, she's actually been having this issue with higher liver enzymes for 3 years. So it's not just something that happened. I like to look at what's been going on, look at trends and see, has this been an issue for a while? And a lot of times it has been. It's something that's been going on for a while. Most of them will come to me with exhaustion. They know something's wrong. They think maybe it's thyroid. Because a lot of my patients are very pro research. They've been putting in the research themselves. They've been DIYing things for years. They're not really getting anywhere, but they have a lot of this knowledge. They know something's wrong. They know that there's a way to help a lot of this, but none of their doctors are on board. So that's where they come to me. And I will always say functional medicine is in no way a replacement for conventional medicine. We absolutely need conventional medicine. I am extremely thankful for the medications we have out there that are life-saving to many people. But we also need to understand that there is this other modality out there, that there is functional medicine that's opting to restore the optimal functions in the body. This is what we want to do. We don't want to cover things up. We want to figure out why things are happening and how we can move on and get this body to be optimal and thriving again. My clients are definitely just help me, please. I don't know what to do. I know that there's something out there for me. So it's exciting. It's really nice to be able to get them to a point where they're like, thank you. I feel so much better now. The minimum I work with people is 3 months. And imagine going like decades feeling like crap. And then after 3 months, you're like, whoa, I'm a whole new person. So there's definitely help out there. It's just unfortunate that so many doctors are just kind of gaslighting women out there.
I'm seeing a trend of a lot of liver detox programs out there, which I feel like is like saying the same thing because the liver helps to detoxify your body.
Yeah.
So, can you dive a little bit more into how our liver is impacting hormones and what are ways that women can work to support their liver better, not necessarily detox?
I actually just did a whole guide on this in the sense that there are a lot of detoxes out there. People think they have to go on some crazy diet. They need to go on a juice cleanse and they need to fast for 5 days and they're going to have a whole new liver. Our liver does a lot and it needs support. So it's more, I like calling it more a liver support versus a detox. I think it's really important that people do cleanses every now and then, just making sure doing what you can. We should all be drinking a lot of water, but just really cleaning up the diet, focusing on helping our body's own processes. A detox is more when you're trying to get rid of something in the body. We'll more see that with like heavy metal detox, getting some of these toxic things out of the body. And that needs a practitioner. That needs somebody that knows what is going on so that you don't make things worse because nobody wants to be mobilizing heavy metals because that can get into the brain and cause a lot more problems. But you want to make sure you have somebody to support you through that. When it comes to the liver, though, it's being inundated with just daily toxins, medications. People don't realize supplements are still an issue, blood sugars. It is dealing with all of it. For me personally, after 20 years of birth control, I did have an ultrasound done and they said I had the beginnings of fatty liver. I did not drink any alcohol. So it was the non-alcoholic fatty liver. And I was like, this is wild. And I wasn't really on a lot of medication. I was just on the birth control and then obviously a lot of the Advil to help with my headaches, which was also destroying my gut. But that was doing a lot on the liver. And I was getting those symptoms of the estrogen dominance, of acting like I have a lot of that estrogen. And my liver enzymes started increasing. There are ways to support it, and we want to make sure that we're doing that, getting good cruciferous veggies in the diet. I'm a big fan of castor oil packs. I think they're great. That's really what I had started in my first when I signed on with that functional practitioner. We worked on it on getting those pathways open, make sure that we're sweating, make sure that we're pooping well, make sure that we're drinking a lot of water, make sure that we're getting movement, that we're moving our lymph, we're dry brushing or doing manual movement and whatever it takes, rebounding, just getting these pathways open because our body does detox. But I've met several people that say they don't even sweat, and that's a problem because we need to sweat. There's a reason why we sweat. We need to make sure. I have several clients that come to me that are pooping like every 3 days, and we need to get rid of that stuff. So we need to be doing even more than once a day. We need that stuff continually leaving our body. Our body absolutely has these beautiful processes, but we need to support them and we need to do what we can to keep them flowing. A lot of people are pushing it just to push their own supplements. You'll see everyone has their own supplement company now. It's like a $32 billion industry. That's what I'm seeing too, is it's a way for people to push their own supplements. But there are some supplements that will help. NAC is a pretty popular one. That's really good for the liver. I'll use D-limonene a little bit if people have some gallbladder sludge going on. That absolutely helps that. It's really important. Just whole foods, water, some of the basics that people forget. Everybody wants this magic pill, but are you even trying to sleep well? Are you drinking water? Let's start there. So there's definitely ways to help your body out that do not cost a ton of money.
Thank you so much for just talking with us today, Crystal. I think we all learned a lot of great information from you. Please, could you share with us and our audience if we'd like to know more where we can find you?
Yeah, so I'm pretty active on Instagram at functional.health, functional with the PH. Also, functional-health.com is my website. I have a newsletter that goes out a few days a week. I'm always giving away free things in there and giving a lot more information that I can in the Instagram caption. Those are pretty much the main ways to find me. I'm always answering DMs and emails. I'm pretty open to everybody that's got some questions.
Awesome. I'll make sure that all of that information goes into our show notes so our listeners can get a hold of you pretty easily.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, subscribe, and share with a friend.
Want to learn more about a specific topic? Follow and drop us a line on Instagram so we can explore it more with you.